Before the NBA crowned superstars, it crowned one man's silhouette. He didn't just shape a franchise, he shaped eras. He built empires for other men to stand on. And yet, the man behind the logo never felt like he won. Because Jerry West wasn't chasing greatness, he was trying to outrun himself. This is the NBA's Oppenheimer, the architect of greatness who never escaped its weight. Jerry West didn't grow up dreaming of banners and parades. He grew up trying to survive the next day inside his own home. Before he was a champion, he was a boy hiding from a father who broke more than bones. He broke safety. Basketball wasn't a pastime for him, it was a way out, the first place in his life where pain couldn't reach him. He didn't chase the game rescued him. Greatness wasn't ambition, it was survival. And the moment he touched a basketball, something terrifying happened. His suffering turned into precision. All that fear became control. All that helplessness became mastery. Most prodigies are fueled by talent. Jerry West was fueled by escape velocity. Not forward ambition, but a blast radius from pain. By the time he reached college, he wasn't a star in the making. He was a myth assembling itself in real time. But here's the tragedy that would follow him for the rest of his life. The better he became, the further he drifted from ever feeling whole. Mastery gave him greatness, but not peace. By the time he reached the national stage, Jerry West wasn't simply the best player on the floor. He was the standard by which excellence was measured. He didn't dominate because he wanted glory. He dominated because the court was the only place life finally obeyed him. West wasn't chasing opponents. He was outrunning everything he was afraid might catch him if he ever slowed down. Soon the country wasn't watching a player. They were watching inevitability. He was becoming less of a person, more of a symbol. He was chosen to represent the United States not just as a scorer, but as the embodiment of American control, discipline, and edge. In Rome, the world saw what West had already become. Not a prodigy with potential, a finished weapon forged by pain. He won gold, and for most athletes that would be a peak. For Jerry West, it was only proof he still hadn't outrun the silence. Because perfection wasn't the reward, perfection was the coping mechanism. Mastery wasn't joy, it was escape with a scoreboard. Soon the NBA came calling, and with it the stage that would immortalize him forever. But immortality is a cruel thing when the man behind it never feels real. When Jerry West entered the NBA, he didn't arrive as a rookie, he arrived as an inevitability, a finished blade the league was suddenly forced to reckon with. He was drafted into a franchise desperate for order, and what they got instead was obsession disguised as composure. He didn't play with swagger, he played with inevitability, a man who moved like outcomes had already been written. Teammates didn't just believe in him, they gravitated toward him. Because some players score and some players bend reality, Jerry West bent it. From the moment he touched the professional stage, the league wasn't seeing a contender. It was seeing the future silhouette of itself. This is where most sports stories climax: arrival, excellence, ascendance. For Jerry West, this was only act one of a burden he would carry for the rest of his life. Because he wasn't merely great, he was definitive. The hinge the sport turned on, the man whose standard became the measuring stick for everyone who came after. This wasn't ego, this wasn't spotlight. This was a man who built a myth the way some people build a shelter, not to be seen, but to survive inside it. Publicly, he was ascending toward immortality. Privately, he was disappearing into himself. Greatness was the mask, silence was the truth. And the gap between the two only widened the higher he climbed. West led the Lakers to the finals again and again. The floor said unstoppable, but his reflection said unworthy. The world saw a rising legend, but inside, he still felt like that frightened boy in West Virginia, the one who could control everything except the storm inside him. And here's the paradox that would define his legacy. The better he got, the worse he felt. Success didn't lift the weight, it sharpened it. Because there's a kind of genius not fueled by belief, but by fear. And fear, when undefeated, becomes identity. To the outside world, Jerry West was rising, but in his own mind, he was still chasing something he could never catch. The version of himself that didn't exist. He wasn't haunted by losing. He was haunted by winning that never felt like winning. Most players spend their careers chasing legacy, Jerry West didn't chase it. Legacy assembled itself around him like gravity. He became the face of excellence, the blueprint of execution, the player other legends modeled themselves after. You know you've crossed into myth when the league stops comparing you to greatness and starts comparing greatness to you. He didn't just change how the game was played, he changed what greatness looked like. Technique became identity, precision became scripture. And then the league did something no player had ever experienced before or since. It didn't give him a trophy, it gave him a symbol. The NBA didn't honor Jerry West with a statue, it immortalized his outline. He didn't just play the game, he became the game's language. But here's where legend turns into burden. When the world crowns you as the standard, there is no longer anywhere higher to climb, only further to fall. He had become the symbol of perfection, and perfection is the loneliest prison ever built. The world saw an icon chasing a title, but the truth is harder. Jerry West wasn't chasing glory, he was chasing the feeling he never got from any of it. Most athletes fear failure. Jerry West feared that even success might not fix him. And then he lived out the nightmare. He kept winning, except on the scoreboard. 9 trips, 1 title. He became the only man in NBA history to win Finals MVP on the losing team. The league literally honored his pain, not his triumph. That's when it crystallized. The world wasn't celebrating him, the world was celebrating what he endured. When the Lakers finally broke through and won, the public saw catharsis. West didn't. It didn't feel like redemption, it felt like relief that vanished the moment the cameras cut away. That was the curse. Perfection had nowhere to go. The standard was so high, achievement registered as 0. Everyone else saw a legend. He saw a void. When his playing career ended, most expected Jerry West to finally rest. Instead, he did something far more difficult. He kept building. He left the floor and stepped into the blueprint, not as a symbol now, but as an architect, the mind behind the dynasty. The Showtime Lakers were not an accident. They were engineered, culture designed, identity manufactured by a man who still felt unfinished inside. He wasn't just acquiring players, he was shaping eras, crafting entire basketball identities, the way a sculptor shapes stone. He built greatness for others the same way he once built survival for himself. Meticulously, relentlessly, without ever slowing down long enough to feel any of it. He didn't become a legend and walk away. He became the quiet architect of an empire and still couldn't let himself believe he belonged in it. And when his time in Los Angeles ended, he didn't step away from the game. He carried the burden somewhere new, as if geography might loosen what identity would not. In Golden State, he shaped another dynasty, another empire born from his vision. And once again, he watched it belong to everyone but him.
I am really flattered, but I am sold on the ownership here.
He moved again, not chasing credit, not chasing legacy, but because stopping meant facing the silence he had spent a lifetime outrunning. By now, he wasn't trying to heal, he was simply trying not to stop, because stillness meant feeling, and feeling meant collapse. In the end, Jerry West didn't become the face of basketball. He became its shadow, the shape every era was built from but never built for. Because greatness doesn't free a man, it confines him inside what the world needs him to be. And some legacies don't live on a podium, they live in a prison made of worship.